Hello, 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 hello. How are we doing today? Are we doing well? I hope so. Today we will be reading Department 19 by Will Hill, and I hope you will enjoy. We'll do a little recap, and then I'll do those dang squats, and then we'll begin. Also, hi, Giga, welcome in. So, if I'm being honest, I have no idea what's happening in the book at the moment. But what we do know is that Jamie's dad was a secret agent who fought vampires for a living and supported Van Helsing who killed Dracula, which is why all the vampires of this time hate him and Jamie. But they only hate Jamie, not his mum for some reason? Who knows? We also learned that the girl Lariessa was assigned to kill Jamie. Jamie also sees Matt all recovering and is emotional because Matt is around his age. Frankenstein's life was saved by one of Jamie's relatives, so we learned that Frankenstein is loyal to the family forever. Frankenstein tells Jamie werewolves are also real, but normal bullets work just fine to kill them. You don't need them silver. Jamie then tries to escape the facility. He stumbles upon a rose garden and then is found by Frankenstein, and that's the place where he gets all the lore. We'll do 20 squats and then we'll begin the reading. I hope all of you do the 20 squats as well. It's very important to stay active. Okay, let's go. Squats. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, hold on. Let me get my chair. So welcome in, Jenny. Day was decent. The game day was decent. I played League of Legends. It was very fun. But yes, let's start our reading now, shall we? I hope you're doing well, Jenny. Chapter 12. A Crimson Kindness. Frankenstein pressed H on the panel in the lift, and they began to descend. The huge man looked straight ahead, his mouth set in a thin line, and Jamie knew he was angry. The lift doors opened onto a round chamber. In front of Jamie were a thick airlock door and an intercom panel. Apart from that, the walls were bare. The lift doors began to hiss shut behind him, and he whirled around. A Frankenstein was still standing in the lift, looking at him. He lunged forward and stuck his hand in the narrowing gap. "What are you doing?" he shouted. "You can't leave me here on my own." Frankenstein replied in a tight voice full of edges.
"You wanted to come down here. I didn't tell you to. Instead, I have to go and tell Admiral Seward that you'll deign to come and see him when it suits you."
Jamie stared at the huge man. When the doors began to close again, he shoved a hand between them. But he said nothing. He just stared at Frankenstein, who returned his gaze. Also, sorry, I forgot to start the stream on the clock app. Hold on. Let me do that. We're not playing the chameleon. Also, welcome in. Also, don't worry about that little fig. You're all good. Okay, I've started my live there. I hope things get better for you soon. Irrational worries are difficult, but it's okay. Things improve. When the doors hissed for the third time, Jamie let them close. As Frankenstein's face disappeared behind the sliding metal, he thought he saw the monster's face soften, and the wide lips part, as if he was going to say something, But then, the doors clicked together, and he was gone. Jamie turned away from... Oh, I think closed. Jamie turned away from the lift and examined the intercom panel. There was a small button at the bottom of the metal rectangle, and he pressed it and waited. He was about to press it again when a voice suddenly emanated from the intercom, making him jump. Coden. Jamie led towards the intercom and spoke into the metal grid. I don't know what that means, he said, and was embarrassed by the tremor in his voice. State your name. Jamie Carpenter. There was a long pause. Proceed, the voice said, and eventually, the huge airlock door unlocked with a rush of air. Jamie took the handle in his hand, braced himself for the weight of the huge structure, and pulled. The door slid open smoothly, and he stumbled backwards, gripping the handle to stop himself falling. The door was as light as a feather. There must be some sort of counterbalance. I bet you couldn't open it with dynamite if it was still locked. He stepped through the door and into a white room, not much bigger than a decent-sized cupboard. There was a second door opposite the one he had just come through, which he pulled shut behind him and waited for the second set of locks to disengage. Nothing happened. Panic jumped from nowhere and settled in Jamie's throat. He was locked in, trapped in, this tiny space, an unknowable distance beneath the ground. A sweat broke out on his forehead, and suddenly, it seemed that the walls were closer than they had been when he walked in. He put his hands out and touched the walls with his fingertips, waiting for the sensation of movement. But there was none. Then the lights went out, and he clamped his teeth together so he didn't scream. A second later, he was bathed in purple ultraviolet, as small hatches in walls opened and flooded the tiny chamber with rushing white gas. So welcome in, Thomas. And welcome in, #1 Rigby cat fan. I love that cat. I adore that cat. I have so many gifs saved of that cat. I freaking love that cat. And I started streaming around a year ago because I simply enjoy reading out loud to people and reading together with people. Also, hi JD, welcome in. I mean GD. Not showing the gifts of you. I sent them in the server. The hiccups are gone. No more hiccups. Then it was over, as quickly as it had begun. The lights came back on, and the second door clunked open. Jamie threw himself against it, pushing it open with his shoulder, spilling out of the coffin. It was like being in a coffin room. He gripped his knees with his hands, doubled over, breathing hard. When the panic had subsided, he stood up and looked round. He was in a long, narrow corridor, brightly lit by the square fluorescent lights set flush into the ceiling. To his right was a flat white wall. To his left was a small office behind thick, transparent plastic. 10 meters down the corridor, he could see square floor-to-ceiling holes that had to be cells running in parallel down the length of the cell block. A white line was painted onto the floor on each side, a meter in front of the cells. Also, thank you for the gifts. And welcome in, Cassian. Welcome in, Flub. I don't get the joke. And no more hiccups. Wait, my dog's looking at me. Oh, she's so cute. Hi. Okay, sorry. Yes, I did. I did. He turned to the office. Behind the plastic, a soldier, wearing the now familiar all-black uniform, sat at a metal desk. He was looking at Jamie with a strange expression on his face, an uncomfortable mix of anger and pity. Jamie supposed the latter was as a result of what had happened to his dad. He did not know what he had done to elicit the former, but when the man spoke, his voice carried no hint of conflict, just the clipped vowels and tight consonants of anger. "You here to see the new one?" he asked. Jamie nodded. "She's at the end on the left." Jamie thanked the man and turned towards the cells, but the guard spoke again. "I'm not finished," he said. "There are rules down here no matter what your name is. Understand?" Jamie turned back to the office, his face flushing red with anger. The guard saw this and smirked. "No, you've heard of the rules, have you?" he said. "Bet you learned about them from your dad, that right?" "What's your problem?" snapped Jamie, and the guard flushed a deep crimson. He lifted himself halfway out of his seat, his eyes fixed on Jamie's, then appeared to think better of it and sat back into the chair. "Don't pass them anything. Don't tell them anything about yourself. Don't step across the white line," he said. "Press the alarm next to her cell if there's trouble. If you're lucky, someone might come." With that, he looked away. Jamie walked past the office, and between the first two cells. They were empty, but a surge of panic shot through him when he examined the one to his left. The entire front wall of the cell was open. No bars, no glass, nothing. He looked down the corridor and saw that all the cells appeared to be the same. He stepped back to the plastic-fronted office, and the guard spoke immediately, without looking up. "It's ultraviolet light," he said, his voice utterly disinterested. "We can pass through it, but they can't." Why not?" Jamie asked. The guard raised his head and looked at Jamie. "Because they'll burn into a little pile of ash if they do. Their cells are vulnerable to UV light, that's why they can't go out in the sun." So welcome in, Claimed. How you doing today? He lowered his head again and waved a hand dismissively. Jamie clenched his fists, bit his tongue, and walked back down the corridor. The first two cells on either side were empty, but the third on the right was occupied. A middle-aged man, neatly dressed in a dark brown suit, sat in a plastic chair at the rear of the cell, reading a thick paperback book. He looked up as Jamie passed, but said nothing. As he made his way down the cell block, he became aware of a distant noise. It sounded like the howls foxes made in the fields behind his house, an ungodly shriek, high-pitched and ugly. As Jamie walked past empty cell after empty cell, he realized it was getting louder, and by the time he stepped in front of the last cell on the left, it was almost deafening. The girl who had attacked him in the park, and then again in the hangar, was crawling back and forth across the ceiling of her cell, like a horribly bloated fly. She was almost unrecognizable from the girl he had met the previous day. Her eyes gleamed a terrible red, and she was caked in blood that had dried to an even brown crust. Her head was thrown back, the muscles in her neck standing out like thick strands of rope, and the guttural howling that was issuing from her snarling mouth made his head swim. Yes, we are reading, welcome in, we are reading Department 19 by Will Hill. In England, yes. Addo. He breathed in sharply. He couldn't help it. The terrible thing crawling across the ceiling was so revolting, so utterly unnatural. She heard the intake of air, and her head snapped around, the red eyes fixing on his own. Even through the shrieks, a flash of recognition flickered across her face, and she screamed anew, louder than ever, staring directly at him. Suddenly, the shrieking stopped, and she fell from the ceiling, landing on her knees on the floor. She looked at him for a long, silent moment, and then began to howl again, her eyes never leaving his. In the wall next to her cell, was a round red button that Jamie assumed was the alarm. Above it was an intercom panel with a small silver button beneath it. He pressed it and waited. With a cackle, the guard's voice, clearly annoyed at being disturbed, came on the line and asked him what the problem was. "What's wrong with her?" Jamie asked. The guard swore heartily down the line.
Don't you know anything?
He asked sharply.
The hunger is on her.
What's the hunger?
For Christ's sake, she's hungry. Is that clear enough for you? She wants blood. It drives them mad if they don't go without it for too long.
Then give her some blood? Jamie said. The guard laughed.
Why would I do that?
What use is she like this? Jamie said, fighting to keep his temper. If you let this hunger make her crazy, she won't be able to tell me anything useful. Just give her some blood.
Those aren't my orders,
replied the guard. Meep meep. Also, thank you, Frog. Much appreciated. Do you have the book The Silence of the Lambs? No, but I've watched the film, and it is a great film. So welcome in, Kayan. How are you doing today? Meep meep. Jamie looked back into the cell and stifled a scream. The girl had silently crossed the concrete floor and was staring at him from the other side of the ultraviolet barrier, her inhuman face only inches from his own. She was twitching and trembling uncontrollably, her whole body vibrating, her red eyes dancing with madness. She opened her mouth and tried to speak to him.
Please,
she slurred, her mouth slack, her jaw working fiercely, trying to form the words.
I will everything, do anything.
If you don't give her some blood, Jamie shouted into the intercom, I'm going to put my arm through the barrier and then you can explain to Admiral Seward what happened. This girl might know where my mother is. I don't care if you have to throw a bucket of blood into the cell from across the corridor. I need to know what she knows. Silence. Meep, meep. Hi, Lucky. Welcome in. How are you doing today? Meep, meep. Jamie could picture the guard in his office, weighing the decision, not wanting to have to explain anything to Admiral Seward, especially not how someone had been eviscerated in one of the cells on his watch.
I've called my superior,
the guard said eventually.
It's his decision. He's coming down now.
Okay, replied Jamie. There was a pause, and then the guard spoke again.
You know what I said to you before? I was just...
I don't care, interrupted Jamie, and the intercom fell. The silence. Meep, meep. Also, this is a reading stream today. I'm very sorry, but I do not play games like that often on the stream. And, Kane, do you mean the character from Genshin Impact? The guy who uses his E-ability to create a star-shaped platform that goes upwards? Also, I hope things get better, Luke. You take care. Meep, meep. Jamie stood in front of the girl's cell and watched her. She had crawled across the room and curled herself into a tight ball on the narrow bed that ran along one wall. She was making a deep sound, that Jamie could feel through the soles of his feet, and every few seconds she lifted slightly into the air before flopping back down onto the white sheets. "So, you're Julian Carpenter's son," said a voice behind him, and he jumped. God's sake, stop being so easy to creep up on. He turned towards the source of the voice and looked into the handsome face of a man in his 40s, dressed in the same black armor as everyone else had since arriving at the base. The man was carrying a small metal case and regarding him with open curiosity. That's right," Ray Jamie replied. "My name's Jamie, I know. Mine is Major Paul Turner. I'm Level H duty officer. I understand you want to give this prisoner blood?" Yes, sir," said Jamie. The sir came naturally. Something about this man made him nervous. "Tell me why I should let you do that, bearing in mind she almost killed one of my colleagues last night and tried to kill you." "That doesn't matter now," Jamie said. "I need to know what she knows. All that matters is my mother." Major Turner regarded him with the merest hint of a smile on his face. I knew Mary," he said, and Jamie gasped. "Met her several times. She was a good woman." "What do you mean, was?" demanded Jamie, color rising in his face. "Sorry, poor choice of words," replied Turner. "I knew your father as well. We were friends. Did you know that?" No," said Jamie. I didn't know that." The two of them looked at each other, the space between them thick with a tension that Jamie didn't understand. Eventually, Major Turner unclipped the latches on the metal case, reached inside, and withdrew two pouches of dark red blood. He tossed them lightly to Jamie, who caught them, never taking his eyes off the man. Just gonna have some water and then I'll continue reading. So yes, I'm doing well, Luki. I'm doing well. Bit sleepy. I've been struggling today with the heat, but the heat wave will be over soon, hopefully. Then everything will be fine. Turner returned his gaze, then said something beneath his breath that Jamie couldn't quite make out, turned smartly on his heels, and walked rapidly back along the cell block towards the exit. "Prove me wrong." It sounded like he said, "Prove me wrong." He turned back to the cell. Larissa was still on the bed, but now she was sitting upright on the edge of it, her eyes fixed on the plastic pouches in his hands. Jamie looked down at them and felt a sudden, terrible disgust. He threw them through the barrier. They never made it to the concrete floor. Larissa moved like mercury across the cell, plucking them out of the air and dropping to her knees. She tore off the top of the first one with her gleaming, pointed teeth, and Jamie turned away as she tipped it up and squeezed the contents into her mouth. "Thank you," said a girl's voice from behind him. He turned back and looked into the cell. Larissa was standing a meter away, smiling at him. Her face was streaked with blood, but it was a human face once again. She had stopped shaking and was standing with easy grace, one foot crossed behind the other, looking at him with eyes that were once a beautiful dark brown. "Do you feel better?" Jamie asked. "I feel wonderful," she replied, her smile widening. "Thanks to you." "Good," he replied, "because there are some questions I need you to answer." "About your mother?" I spilled down Jamie's spine. What do you know about my mother?" Larissa smiled at him, her blood-stained fangs gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Chapter 13. And that is the end of that section. Gonna drink some more water and then we will continue. There's lots of people in the EU have been suffering, especially in, I've heard it's very bad in France and Spain. But, yeah. Hopefully it won't be so bad next year. We're all very lucky to have fans, air conditioning. Weather is hot. Germany had melting traffic lights. Yikes. I wasn't even aware that... Would it be were they above tarmac and the heat went up from them? Melting traffic lights. Yikes. Also, I've no idea, Dilly. Let's continue. Chapter 13. Are you going to let me out? Larissa's question was delivered in a sweet, childish tone of voice, like a little girl asking her mother for a kitten. Jamie laughed, incredulous. Why would I do that? He asked. Because I spared you, she replied, smiling sweetly at him, the tip of her fangs no longer visible beneath lips that were stained with blood. You spared me? I spared you, and you saw what I got for my trouble. Jamie looked at her. Her grey shirt was torn in places, stained almost black with blood, but she wore it with nonchalant confidence. Her faded blue jeans were also torn, and the scuffed toes of brown boots protruded from beneath the denim. Her dark hair was long, swept carelessly away from her forehead. Blood coated the bottom half of her face, garish against milky white skin. Obscuring the shape of her lips, streaks of crimson caressed her neck. She coughed, pointedly. Why did you spare me? He asked. She smiled again. I didn't feel like killing you, she replied. That's not really sparing me, is it? That's just not feeling like it. Somatics. Not to me. She looked away from him, inspecting her bloody fingernails, shifting her weight from one leg to the other. So, you're not going to let me out? She asked. I can't let you out, even if I wanted to. I don't have any authority here. Even with your famous surname? Oh well. That's a shame. They eyed each other through the shimmering UV fields, and Jamie asked her the first of the two questions he really wanted her to answer. Why were you trying to kill me? Larissa narrowed her eyes. I wasn't trying to kill you. If I wanted to kill you, you'd be dead. So you weren't trying to kill Matt either? Who's Matt? The boy whose garden you landed in. The one whose throat you pulled out with your fingernails. He's in a coma upstairs. Good for him. Maybe he'll pull through. So, why did you attack me? What did I ever do? Orders. From who? From my master. A chill danced up Jamie's spine, and he remembered the thing in the grey coat that had let itself into the house he had shared with his mother. He remembered the pale madness on his face, the way it had leapt into the air when Frankenstein fired his huge weapon, before it disappeared into the sky like a missile. Did I just get 20 squats redeemed as a channel reward? I need to raise the price of that so it doesn't happen so regularly. But to be fair, it's probably good I'm exercising. Okay, 20 squats and we'll continue. Corruption, it's capitalism. When the demand increases, the price increases. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, squats done. My dog can confirm I did the squats. Thanks, Smoke. Appreciate it. Okay, let's continue. You did 50 squats and almost fell down the stairs? When? How did that even happen? Were you doing squats at the top of the stairs? In what possible situation could that happen? I'm gonna need the lore on that. We drink something, then we'll continue. Thank you, Sway. Let's continue. Alexandru, he said softly, and Larissa flinched. You know his name? She asked. Her voice had lost a touch of its easy confidence. I was told it, he replied. Hold on, I need to let my dog out. Actually, no, does she want to go out? No, she's sitting. Oh, sorry, I thought she was going to the door. I was told it, he replied. By the monster. By Frankenstein, if that's who you mean. Who is he, Alexandru? The smile returned to her face. They didn't tell you, she asked. Just his name, he replied. He's the second oldest vampire in the world, she said, with obvious relish. His brothers are first and third. He's more powerful than you can imagine. Like how powerful? Like a god. Like that powerful. I don't believe in God. She smiled at him again, and this time, Jamie saw the white triangles below her upper lip. You should, she said. You really should. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Jamie lowered himself to the ground and crossed his legs, looking directly at her. After a few seconds, she mirrored him, and they sat like this for a while. They did not smile at each other. Not exactly, but they did not scowl or frown either. Jamie was concentrating on projecting calm, but inside, he was a maelstrom of anger and frustration. Also, welcome in, Develops. How are you doing today? You doing well? We are reading Department 19 by Will Hill, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Much appreciated. She's not your friend, you idiot. Why are you talking to her like she is, you stupid, stupid idiot? She might have killed you twice yesterday, and she might know where your mother is. Snap out of it. For God's sake, make her tell you what you need to know. When he finally spoke, he did so bluntly. Is my mother alive? He asked, taking care not to let his voice tremble at the thought. Larissa sat forward and brushed strands of dark hair away from her face. I would think so, she replied. Calm. You don't know? She was alive when I met up with them after it was over. But then Alexandru got a tiny bit angry with me for not killing you, so I got torn to pieces and dropped out of the clouds into some family garden. So, after that, no, I don't know. She smiled at him, and her tongue darted out and licked a tiny spot of blood from her lower lip. He tried to ignore it. So welcome in, Svi, and welcome in, Corey. And I'm doing well today. And hi, Xan. Hi. I'm doing well, thank you. Where would he have taken her? He asked. I don't know. I don't believe you. Larissa shrugged. That's your prerogative, but it's the truth. Only Alexandru and Anderson knew where we were going next. Who's Anderson? Alexandru's right-hand man. Simple, but vicious. Like a guard dog. So you don't know anything that could help me? I know where they were until yesterday, and I know how to find out where they are now. How? By asking someone nicely. Asking who? That would be telling. Yes, it would, so tell me. I can't, she replied. Anger surged through Jamie. Why not? He asked, his voice rising. He couldn't help it. Because then you won't come back again and see me. This isn't a game, Jamie exploded. This isn't funny. My mother's life is in danger. Larissa's eyes flashed red, then settled back to their dark brown. That's right, she said, in a voice like ice. Her life, not my life. Just a single, anonymous, human life. What difference will it make if she lives or dies? All the difference in the world to me, Jamie bellowed. Tell me where she is right now. She sighed and rolled her eyes. Such bravery, she said softly, from behind an impenetrable barrier. I'd open this cell right now if I could, Jamie spat. I'd kill you with my bare hands. No, Larissa said, looking at him with terrible sadness. You're not a killer, not like me. If you arrange for my release, I will take you to the person who can tell us where your mother is. If you won't, or can't, then I'm afraid you're on your own. Tears rose in the corners of Jamie's eyes, and he stumbled to his feet. He walked quickly, almost running down the corridor away from her, determined that she would not see him cry. Her voice floated down the cell block after him. Come back soon, she cried, her tone warm and inviting. I'll be waiting. And that is the end of that chapter. Also, no, I am not a vocal artist, but I've tried in the past. I tried to do some voice acting, but I didn't really get the results that I wanted. Like, there was a couple of percussion with a few, but then I was never reached out to again after that, and it was just putting in too much effort for too little results, so I stopped applying to stuff. I think this is where we will be ending stream for today. I apologize, but my throat is hurting a bit and I'm not feeling the best today, but I very much appreciate all of you for tuning in. I will be reading tomorrow at 6 p.m. British time. Details of my schedule are in my Discord server, which is on my profile. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, night, anytime it is for you. Stay safe, don't panic, and may you all live in interesting times. Bye-bye.